So now that it is time to get started with WorshipStreamTV, I want to thank our audience for joining us today. And I want to point out some of the great things that we have in store for you this week. The goal of WorshipStreamTV is to explore the new products and innovations available to houses of worship. One of the biggest challenges and questions we've seen in the worship industry is how you can elevate your video streaming and take the products that you may have purchased before, during, or just after the pandemic and bring that to the next level of production to give your church all the technology and tools you need to move forward into the future. This not only includes video streaming, but it includes video production in your house of worship itself. Everything from LED display solutions to cameras to lighting to audio to AV over IP and everything in between. WorshipStreamTV is a 3-day event kicking off right now. A single registration gives you access to all of this content today, tomorrow, and Thursday, starting at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And that same registration will give you access to all of the on-demand footage. So if you need to tune out for a little bit, take a call, can't make it on one of the days, you will have access to all of the great content and all of the great footage. Some of this content has been pre-recorded and will be airing to you live over the next 3 days. And you'll see as we go through the show that one of the reasons we did that is because there is a major NRB trade show happening right now in Texas. Some of the partners who we wanted to talk about House of Worship are there at that trade show. So we brought them on camera just last week. We also have some live guests joining us, both remotely and in studio here. We are broadcasting from our studio using a Vizrt TriCaster system, all NDI production workflows going back to that system and bringing guests in remote, either over Teams, Zoom, or other conferencing protocols. We are also bringing our guests live from the NRB show floor using the LiveView LU300 cellular bonding encoding to make sure that we have a reliable AV stream from a busy trade show floor. At least I hope it's going to be reliable. You'll just have to hang with us when we get ready to toss it live to the NRB show in Texas. We have lots of great guests joining us. Jeremy Morris from Vizrt actually joined us from his own church where he is handling a lot of the productions. And he is talking about the production solutions he's solved and how Vizrt solutions can help you meet the challenges in your own house of worship. We've spoken with BirdDog, PTZ Optics, Kiloview, Panasonic, and we're going to have Absent joining us talking about the LED display solutions and even talking about how some of the challenges in broadcasting from your church with an LED display behind you, you need to make sure you have the right camera settings and the right camera and optics to get the best video quality. This is a careful challenge that a lot of churches are dealing with today. How do I get the best production in-house? That LED display wall, the huge displays that you see in a lot of these modern churches, is one of the great ways of doing that. But now I also want to be able to stream that to my extended community or to my congregation who's at home and can't make it into the building. That poses a challenge of how you get the best of both worlds. And that's one of the biggest things that we're seeing churches ask us a lot about today. Some of the topics we're going to discuss are PTZ cameras, the optical image quality, and choosing the right camera for all of your production needs. We're going to talk about auto tracking and the production capability from the auto tracking cameras. We're going to talk about production software, turnkey production systems, REMI productions, cellular bonding. Perfect example is going to be the technology that we're coming into our broadcast from the NRB show floor, and of course the LED displays and getting those LED displays on camera themselves. We will have an opportunity to field all the questions that you have throughout the event. We have staff monitoring the feed on Crowdcast on Facebook and YouTube. So feel free to drop your questions in throughout the show. If we can't get to your questions in real time as this broadcast is airing, we will take those questions and bring them onto the show Thursday afternoon at the end of our broadcast. If you want to tune in to see some of the great questions asked by fellow people with the same challenges that you're facing, you can tune in Thursday afternoon as we go through that Q&A period. We're also going to take that Q&A and announce some of the great winners that we have for the great prizes available for us. We told you that your registration on crowdcast.com gave you access or a chance to win these great prizes. If you're following us on social media today, there is still time to register to Crowdcast to get your chance of winning one of these great prizes. You can go to WorshipStream.tv and register today. That registration gets you access to all 3 days worth of videos, a chance of winning these great prizes, and of course, all of this content available on demand. You can win a TriCaster Vector operation exam, a BirdDog X1 20X PTZ camera, a PTZ Optics Studio 4K camera, and everyone who has registered is going to receive a digital subscription to Video Maker Magazine with some great content that'll help you with your production needs. So let's get started with today's show. I am going to reach out to Glenn Seaman, our workflow sales engineer, who is on the show floor out in Texas at the NRB show. Hey, Glenn, are you there? I'm doing excellent, man. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay, good. It's great. Bad timing. We just had right behind us is a big exhibit area and everybody's flooding out. So we're trying to make sure we got people playing bounces to make sure nobody cuts through our camera feed.
That's no problem. We're live on the show floor, man. We're going to do the best that we can. I wanted to ask you a little bit before we get into the presentation and some of the products that we're showing off. Can you tell us a little bit about the technology that we're using to bring you into our studio here in New York?
Yeah, and yeah, I was here for your preamble, and yeah, we are using an LU300, and we are kind of in the back hall of a very busy show floor, and we are live streaming right from that. When we talk to Chuck, I'll talk about the fact that we've got a couple other exhibitors here that are actually using different LiveView products as well to do some live streaming and live production. But we've got our camera set up. We're using a Lumix camera. We've got a Atomos monitor that we're using to kind of keep an eye on what's going on in production-wise. All that is feeding into our LU300 unit, and that's being transmitted back to you guys in New York and coming out, I believe, NDI right into your TriCaster.
Absolutely, and being able to set up something like this really opens up a lot of opportunities for the churches that we talk to all the time. You can now send someone anywhere in the world. It could be on a mission trip, it could be a different campus, and now they can still tune in and join all of your services like Glenn is doing from the NRB trade show today. So Glenn, why don't you show us around the booth a little bit?
Yeah, let's start with Chuck over at LiveView, which is a perfect segue. And the nice thing is, Jim was just talking about, LiveViews being used for mission services. And I know that's one of the things that's in your pitch is about, how, LiveViews being used for mission services. So why don't you talk a little bit about that? Then we can talk about some of the hardware we're showing here as well. And I think, also maybe make a nice little pitch for the guys that are up front doing the live stream. And they're switching in the cloud too, so we'll come back to that. But, let's start with,
Yeah, what we're showing today, one of the big messages we're talking about here at NRB is the ability to work with churches to improve their production value in a multi-church environment. So what do we mean by multi-church? Think of an environment where you have 3 to 4 or more church brick and mortar facilities, creating an experience where all 3 locations or 4 locations are synced, video and audio, to create basically a broadcast quality Zoom experience. So what we're seeing is churches are looking to increase the value of production that they're doing, clearly with the goal of increased membership, increased exposure, expanding their message within their communities. And then we kind of like to throw the little twist at them, because a lot of times when I'm on these discussions, I ask about missionaries. And do they have active missionaries? And would you like to include missionaries in the church service? And that affords us the opportunity to start to talk about our field units as well. So now you have a Sunday service with 3 or 4 facilities, all synced, all with bidirectional video and audio communication. And we're able to bring in a remote missionary from anywhere in the world into that Sunday service. So that really is a story that resonates a lot with churches. And it's something that it's our main focus, one of the main points we're trying to drive here at NRB. We are very fortunate. We have several customers on the floor that are actually doing live streaming from their booths. They're doing everything from media hits to airing out to their channels. So we have a customer that's using LU800 Studio. In fact, the studio production for this particular station is being done in Milan. So they're actually producing the content there in Milan, streaming from here. So it's a great example of what you guys do at virtually every show. A lot of times you're doing it from Miall, New York. But the reality is, as we all know, you can do it from anywhere in the world. Production can be anywhere, and that's a great story that LiveView routinely tells to any customer looking for that as an option.
Yeah, so what we're using the LU300, just kind of explain the line. So LU300, single camera input, HDMI or HDSDI. What we're looking at here is the 800, so this is really the Cadillac of experience. This has 4 HDSDI inputs. You can either use that for quad link 4K, you can use it for multicam, you can use it to do lots of different types of production. So a good range of products. We're going, again, like I said, we're going from here right to our broadcast studio, coming out either as an SDI signal or an NDI signal. We could also be simultaneously streaming this to any of the social media platforms. So a lot of things in that range. And another thing I know a lot of churches are using these for is a lot of the smaller churches don't have reliable internet connections. And when they do, all their parishioners are using that internet connection because somebody got the password. So now you can also have a dedicated internet connection for your live stream so that you know that, hey, that's always going to go out in a pristine fashion.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was just getting ready to kind of mention this. And for those that aren't familiar with the latest upgrade to the LU800 specifically, now we're in ability to use Data Bridge, which is what Glenn's referring to, which basically is turning the 800 into a high-powered hotspot. You're able to stream and use Data Bridge simultaneously, which is a huge benefit because it used to be a one or the other scenario, but now you're able to do both. And we talk a lot about that on the floor of many trade shows. Like this becomes a very cost-effective means to bring network connectivity into a trade show environment, and something churches do as well.
Cool. All right. I think we're going to segue to a couple other products now.
All right.
Cool. So we're going to jump over here, and we're going to talk a little bit about Facilis. So Facilis is a shared storage environment.
Hold on.
And what we're looking at right now is this is a Facilis
that was my master.
shared storage. This is all SSDs in this one, so this is a really high-end production one. But the beauty of this, and I love being on a trade show floor because it allows us to show off and talk about different things. But right here, we're looking at the server itself. We have what's called the Facilis Fast Tracker.
Yeah.
And this is really our asset management, so we can look at all our different shots and things like that. We can log shots. We have the ability to go in and recognize and catalog things. We can use AI to do transcripts and all types of things like that. But the thing we're also showing here is something called Fast Cache. And the reason I like talking about this at a trade show is, I've got my local storage here, but I also need to be working with some remote storage. So I have another machine in New York. And on that, I have assets that I need to work with. Well, I don't have a good connection here. I'm using the hotel Wi-Fi to get to my network, and I can't do live production over that. But Fast Cache allows me to cache all of my content in a secure fashion onto an external SSD or an internal drive. And now I can actually work with all those assets. So what I've got now is I've got all those assets live to me in my computer. Whoops. I'm using this in Adobe Premiere. So these are all assets that came in from my New York server that I'm able to quickly pull in and work with. And with inside Adobe Premiere, I have my Facilis pane. So that allows me to go in and have that access to that exact same Fast Tracker to be able to look at all my different assets and work with those with inside my system. But again, now these are New York assets, but I can play with them. I can use them in real time. and they're going to act just like any other local asset because they are local. They've been cached to a local hard drive, and as people change and add more content to the stuff in New York, I have access to it quickly and easily as well. So that's our Facilis workflow here. Next product we have is we're showing off some AJA products. A couple different things in this range. We've got two different recording solutions. So we've got the Kai Pro Go 2. This is a recorder that will record up to 4 different camera sources. It'll record to flash drives, SSD drives. It'll record to these SSD drives, and it'll record to an MP4 format. So once they're done recording, I could pop these out, and I can drop them into my editorial bay. I can also use these for playback. So that's the Kai Pro Go 2. We've then got the Kai Pro Go Ultra. I'm sorry, the Kai Pro Ultra 12G. So this is a 12G SDI device. Okay, it can record up to 4 cameras. This records in higher end formats. Going to record into ProRes 444. It can record into Avid DNX quality formats. So you can record much higher quality, again, for recording and playback. And then the next device we have here is the Kiloview. This is a live streamer. So we could actually be, if we were just doing a local production or just want to say, okay, great, I'm going to take my camera feed and I want to live stream it. I can put an HDMI into this or an HDSDI into this, and I can stream either of those. I can also do things where I can actually build picture-in-picture. So I can take those 2 different streams and build an overlay, build some basic things. But the thing that's really neat about this is I also have USB storage on it. I have storage on it, so I could actually record my morning sermon, live stream it. So while I'm streaming it, I can record it. And then if I want to just rebroadcast that later in the day, I can rebroadcast the pre-recorded format. So these are the AJA solutions, and we've got lots of other solutions within this space, but these are just some of the devices for recording and live streaming. And I love talking about live streaming because a lot of people are using lots of products, whether it be Wirecast Pro, the TriCaster from Viz. You know, those products have live streaming built into them, but if you can offload that live streaming to a dedicated piece of hardware, that gives your switching platform more horsepower to be more creative and do more things with it. So that's the AJA product line. We're going to jump over to PTZ Optics now, where we're going to talk with Brandy. Hey, Brandy, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
So we're good. We're live with Jim here. We're streaming. Oh, you need to get the microphone. Where is Chuck? Where did Chuck go?
Chuck's up there.
All right, there we go.
I might need that, huh?
So we've been talking, you know, one of the things we definitely want to talk about, so we've got PTZ Optics here. We've got a few different cameras. One thing, Sue, is just talking to people is, you know, I've bumped into a lot of people that bought cameras in 2020. We were just talking about this. Maybe it's time to upgrade.
It's 100% time to upgrade.
So I'm going to turn it over to you, but I think we want to talk a little bit about, you know, all the new cameras, especially this guy, which is winning lots of great, you know, accolades.
Absolutely.
But we want to talk about auto tracking as well. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, so like Glenn said, it is time to upgrade if you bought cameras in 2020, and you'll want to upgrade with our move line as well as our studio line. So this is our new Studio 4K. It is 4K 60. It's got an amazing image quality to it. It also has buttons on the side. It has a tally light so you can see when it is on live. And it comes in a 12 and a 20 times zoom. And it's just really budget friendly. So great for churches. And if you just need something that's posted on the caster, perfect solution. We've got our Move 4K. Our Move 4K is a PTZ camera. It has a great auto tracking feature that you can track the pastor from wherever he goes on the church. You can actually select him as the presenter, and it won't leave him. It'll just follow him. And it has another cool feature called dynamic zoom. So you can zoom in and out while he's moving across the stage, just whatever scenario you might need it to be. So fully customizable in the moment. So 4K, it comes in a 12, 20, and 30 times zoom, 60 frames per second, and it has all your outputs. So it is slated for everything. NDI HX3, SDI, IP, USB, and HDMI. So everything you need there. And then you've got our Super Joy controller. This controller is everything, okay? So for like $8.99, you can have everything you need in a controller. You've got your super buttons, super presets, so you can set those to do anything. Turn tracking on and off, control 4 cameras at one time. So 250 presets. It's a great camera. Also has an HDMI out, so you can preview what's going out.
And I think I like that. That's one of the things that's, you know, the HDMI out on this means
It's
that
the best.
you basically, you know, every camera operator, when they switch to a camera, they see what they're doing. So they don't have to look over somebody else's shoulder. The other thing that's really nice about this too is the matrix mode. So you can have all your different cameras, but you can say, you know what? I want to lock this down a little bit. I want my volunteers to only have access to 3 cameras and 3 presets. So it becomes very volunteer easy. And the other thing too is, again, it's really nice because, you know, it's a cam 1 button. I don't need to hit multiple buttons. I want to go to cam 2, I hit 1 button and doing that. So this is, you know, and it's built really solid. So it's one of my favorite controllers. Yeah. You mentioned something too that I think is important for a lot of House of Worship to know is you mentioned IP formats. The nice thing with all these cameras is, you know, out of the back of them, they can do an RTSP stream.
Right.
You know, an RTMP stream, which means I don't need anything else. If I just, a small little church, and I just need to get my pastor on Facebook, I can go right on the back of the camera to Facebook, to YouTube Live, to worship.com, whatever I need to. Nothing else involved. So that's a really neat feature in this.
Yeah. We also do have coming soon is our Hive Studio, which is really going to impact churches. It'll be a cloud-based control system that you'll be able to like set users, you know, so you can say if I'm missing church on Sunday, I can share an invite to Glenn, and Glenn can do service for me. And it is so easy, like a 10-year-old could like just get on and control it and not do anything.
Just a web interface.
It's a web interface. You can set color presets, you can set presets, and you can see the presets preview. You can record, and you'll be able to stream out directly from that. So watch for that. It is in beta right now. So if you want to see that, you can go to www.ptzoptics.com.
Beautiful. Thank you, Brandy. I'll
take
that microphone now.
Yes.
So we don't lose it. Cool. And then we are off to Jeremy from Vizrt. There's your microphone, sir. And, you know, you got to step back so they can see everything you've got going on here.
Yep.
And Jeremy likes to show off everything, so I don't want people feeling intimidated like, oh, my God, I need all of this. He's actually got a plethora of stuff, and I love that word.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll start here, and you're going to go over all of it, but I just kind of want to lay the lands. This is the brand new TriCaster Vision. This is a great box. It's one of a couple different configurations within this. We've got over here is this the Go? Yes,
that's the VS Go.
That's the VS Go, which is a really nice entry-level solution for folks that are just looking for USB and basic
the augmented reality and XR type stuff is what we're doing with this one.
And then we've got, looks like the same thing, but this is the Tetra.
Correct.
Which is another great way of doing remote production. So if you want to just basically say, hey, I want to plug all my cameras in and send a live, send that to a remote production place, whether that be on-prem or in the cloud, and you're going to talk a little bit about all of that. But and this is where I want to start, because this is, an environment that people here are kind of used to. This is...
So that's ProPresenter.
ProPresenter. And, I'd love to say, people know ProPresenter. People are using it. But now, let's talk about how you're tying it into the higher end, Viz, RT, NewTek, TriCaster workflows.
Right, exactly. So with the ProPresenter capability, not just from an in-room experience where you're sending the graphic content to the screens inside the sanctuary, we're taking the NDI output. But I can do this as separate lower thirds. So where full screen's coming in one location, I can deal with the lower third as a keyed signal that's completely independent but driven from the same software. So now from the same user interface, I'm sending 2 different signals, 2 different places with 2 different output requirements. Full screen on the projector inside Sanctuary, but a keyed lower third popping up on screen on broadcast at the same time. So it's a great way to interface with something that's currently in use, but I'm taking it to another level. It's more of a higher end production look based on something I'm already using.
And and I know you're doing it with 2 different pieces are here, but that's kind of a neat little thing that I want to segue, because as we've walked the show floor, we've seen a lot of folks with multiple laptops, multiple systems, using a free-ish piece of software that everybody knows. But I look at that and I'm like, you realize that, what people don't realize with the TriCaster is it is a workhorse. And the things that I'm needing multiple computers to try to do things with multiple systems, I can do in a TriCaster. So be able to create, both a main sanctuary output and a streaming output from one box is what TriCaster is built to do. I don't need two boxes to do that.
Right, and that goes back to the name of the system on TriCaster, where you're switching your recording and your streaming all from one platform anyways. Well, now we're taking that to another level with the mixed outputs. I've got independent outputs that I can send wherever I need that to go. So not just from an in-room experience, but overflow. If I'm doing a separate stream, going to multilingual options or things like that. With the separate streaming encoders, I can now accomplish a whole lot more than what I could just TriCaster several years ago. So we just added more and more. Being a software-led, software-defined visual storytelling, we kind of talk about as our tagline. We are living up to that. We're able to adapt our software in ways that others really can't because they're hardware-focused. Because we're software-defined, we can take a lot of different things a lot of different ways. But it also means we play well with others. Just like we talk about taking the output of ProPresenter, or I'm taking feeds from PTC Optics, or I'm outputting the TriCaster to LiveView, or whatever else. We don't force you into one type of workflow. We allow the systems to grow and evolve the way the end user needs to at that given moment. Like we just had people that came through a little bit ago that were talking about, oh, I want to start small because of my budget, but here's where I want to go. I'm like, perfect. You can start small, do the entry level, do the mini S. When you get to the TC1 or when you get to the Vision, you have that roadmap and allows you to get there as your needs develop without having to rip everything out and start over. It's a great way to start small. And like I said, the name of the panel, the Flex. Be flexible with your operation because no one uses the same system the same way each time. Every client does it completely different. We allow for that. It's kind of built in. It's kind of over-engineered to a fault where I can have a traditional operator switch everything they want to from a control panel or simplify it down to just run presets on a Stream Deck.
Right, and I was going to mention that too because it's kind of nice that you get that is, this is what a lot of people are used to operating. But, if you're a volunteer, if you're a small church, this is intimidating, and I don't remember what this is. I don't remember, what was that button? You're showing the Stream Deck here where you can do visual icons, you can limit it, and you probably haven't got it set up, but there's even a way to control a TriCaster from a custom-built web GUI.
Right.
So you could just say, you know what, great, you're going to walk in and just say, okay, great, here's your 4 cuts, there's your graphic on, graphic off. So you can build these and tailor these environments to who it is. So you could come in and you can say, great, I'm going to build the entire season's worth, of, the entire year's worth of productions, but you're going to come in and Easter Sunday is going to be yours. Christmas Eve is going to be yours. You're going to do all those because it's going to be a lot more bells and whistles.
Right.
But, lots of different flexibilities in that, lots of different ways of controlling the device.
Right. So we have our live panel user interface, which I don't have brought up right at the moment, but that's a way, through a browser to control macros that are already set up. So the main user interface, yes, this is where you can get in trouble if you don't know how to operate it. But from a volunteer's perspective, they know what an iPad looks like. They know what that green button does. I hit green means go. Now I'm live streaming. Yep. We can simplify it to that granular level so whoever's walking in can operate it in any form or factor. But the main user, the power user, can set up the show they want to, and then off we go.
Great.
Anything else you want to talk about?
I think
can go on for more hours.
I know you
everybody
can. We talked about Tetra.
Yeah.
Talked about. Oh no, you do have. Yes.
Let's go back to Tetra for a moment. So Tetra is another option for connectivity that we released last year that has kind of changed the game a little bit from a remote standpoint. Where yes, I have 4 baseband video connections on the back of it that I can convert SDI in and out, 12G, 3G, or whatever. But we've added other components to it, especially from an audio routing standpoint. When I say, hey, I can convert NDI to NDI, people's brains lock up. It's like, well, why do you want to do that for? Well, I could remux audio. I could change different feeds to go different directions. I can color correct a camera that's coming in from a web browser or a USB camera or something like that and then output that going the other direction. Or I can take this from a remote standpoint. This goes out to the remote location. This goes out to the satellite campus or going out to an event somewhere else. Now I have that capability of connecting locally, going back to the main switcher, and then send a return feed going back because I've got NDI bridge built in now. So now I've got my bridge box that I can drop wherever I need to, bring that content in and out, and I'm muxing that signal on from one connection. We've seen we can do with SRT, but SRT is usually every single signal has to have its own path. Well, with NDI through bridge, I can mux all that down to one, so it makes it a lot easier to interface. Camera. Oh, it's what live event. I can mix all that stuff and send it wherever I want to across public internet. So that's a great way to then be able to expand your production. Again, going back to the name of the Flex, it's a flexible access where I can bring it wherever I need to.
Great.
So yeah, so that's Tetra. And yeah, same form factor as what we're going with Virtual Studio Go. This is our AR, XR augmented reality platform from a graphics standpoint. So I can put content wherever I need to. Even on the truck, I've got bar graph
I don't know if
popping
you
up
can
on
see
top
that
of
or
it.
not, but yeah, we've got
But then it
graphics.
tracks with the camera. And so an interesting application with this, now we're about to pop up on screen with my output from ProPresenter. I don't have a camera shooting at the screen because that kind of looks bad on air, but I can bring that same content, especially from a full screen aspect, that can sit on stage next to the pastor. They can interact with that content because that's going out for live broadcast. That's a little different from an in-room experience. So we allow for all of that mixing environment into one platform and then have a good-looking output going in the direction.
Excellent, excellent.
So,
And I think the next thing up is you and your.
yes, I actually talk more about that. So I hit my segment there with Gary, and so we go more into what can happen inside an actual church environment because I'm there on stage at my church in Fayetteville, Georgia. So
Beautiful. Thank you.
thank you, sir.
All right, and I think we are back to you, Jim. And
So I would like to thank Glenn and all of our partners for joining us from the NRB show. And I also want to peel back the curtain here and just give you a quick peek behind the scenes of what just happened with that live view technology. We broadcasted live from Texas at the NRB convention to our studio here in New York and shared that feed perfectly, crystal clear to our audience watching us here on WorshipStreamTV. The entire time that happened, I had a separate cellular connection, a single phone call opened up to talk to our production crew over at the show, and I lost that cellular connection about 10 minutes into the video. Live view with the cellular bonding and the multiple modems that it uses to stream broadcast with no problem from the busy show floor, and I could not keep up with just a voice telephone call. So it does show you how this tool can be very valuable for churches in a remote area that needs to get that message out to their congregation that are remote, or those that are traveling on mission trips and other parts of the world where cellular connections are not going to be as robust, and you need the bonding to get the best from them. Now, through the magic of movies, I want to broadcast Jeremy. We're going to teleport him from the NRB show in Texas, where he just joined us live, to his church back in Georgia, where he is very involved in handling all of the productions for the church. He's going to talk to us about some of the challenges and solutions that he faces as a broadcaster and as a volunteer with his church. And then we're going to talk about some of the next-gen BirdDog workflow solutions and NDI products and streaming bonded products from Kiloview. So stay tuned. We've got a lot of great show coming up for you. This is a segment that we pre-recorded with Jeremy Morris from Vizrt from his church in Georgia, talking about video production and streaming in your house of worship.
All right, welcome everyone. Worship Stream Day 1. We're so excited. This is I believe, our third worship stream, third year. WorshipStreamTV. Basically, this is a show focused on video technology for live streaming and live production of houses of worship for their services or what have you. We're super excited. Today's show features Vizrt, and I got my man Jeremy on the show. Hey, Jeremy.
Hi, Gary. Nice to be here.
Now, I'm cheating. I'm on a virtual set that's in a church, but you, my friend, are actually in your church operating the Viz TriCaster that you use to produce shows for your church. And even cooler is, who are the guys operating the TriCaster on this show, my man?
Well, so if we cut to camera 2, you will see. There we are.
There they are.
All right. So yeah, there's 2 of my boys. There's Harrison and Dixon.
Cool. Thanks, guys. I think what's so important here, we're going to talk about it a lot, is that one of the great ways to get the youth engaged in your house of worship is to let them be a part of the production for your house of worship, because it gives them something sticky to let them stick into. We're going to get to that a little more on the show, but I think it's so cool that you're doing that. Now, Jeremy, tell us a little about yourself and what you do with Vizrt before we jump into the show.
All right, that's fine. Dixon, can you go to preset 3 for me, please? All right. Wait for the camera to come back. There we go.
Yeah, we apologize. Right. The camera they're working with has been their camera for a while. It's a little on the fritz, and they're going to figure out what it is. But this is our opportunity to shoot the show today, so we have to deal with the camera we have. This is welcome to the world of live.
Yes, exactly. So my name is Jeremy Morris. I am with Vizrt, formerly at NewTek, and formerly previous life I was in the dealer world for a long, long time. But I got my start on a video toaster in high school, so my career has come full circle to utilize the technology that I learned and broke my teeth in the industry on to get into here on the production side, and then also do it for an actual career. So it's been a true blessing not only to do it for a regular career, but then also on the volunteer side here at Pinecrest Church in Fayetteville, Georgia. Very,
very cool. We love having you on the show, so thank you very much. We're going to wait for the PowerPoint to pop up. There it is. All right, there's a little bit of a close-up, nice profile picture of my man Jeremy. All right, so our agenda, why add live production to your house of worship? And then we're going to go into NDI 6 and what's new. But I think the biggest thing that's changed over the past few years, and correct me if I'm wrong and stop me anytime, is that live streaming of houses of worship was starting to take hold in the late 2010s. Then COVID hits, and all of a sudden people can't, you're not allowed to go to church, you're not allowed to do this stuff. Well, that wasn't right. The show must go on, as they say. So we were able to set up houses of worship to be able to stream and to stream video for those people at home. Now, some houses of worship just got a single camera, a PTZ camera. Others tapped into understanding they can still produce a show, because while you couldn't load the pews with people, you certainly could have people in the back producing some stuff, a couple of people on the stage, as long as everyone was 6+ feet. I'm bringing back nightmares, I'm sorry, but that's where we were. So a lot of houses of worship really jumped on using a TriCaster to stream. As people started to come in, they kept streaming, and they've done that well. But now I think what's happened is a lot of houses of worship have realized that a service, a church service, temple, whatever it is really an event. So why not start producing it more like a live event to make it something people want to come and be a part of even more? So what I'm trying to say is that this technology that we're going to talk about isn't just for streaming to people at home who can't come in, but it's actually now putting more fannies in the seats, because we're making it a more fun, more interactive, more visually enhanced show. So take it away, and also, if you could, show us the wide angle of where you are, as opposed to just the close-up. Yeah, so Dixon, go to preset 1 for me. All right, so since I have my kids running everything, so now you see where we are on the stage here at Pinecrest Church. A lot of it, like you said, Gary, is how do we bring folks back into service? We want to make it engaging to be a part of, but then also for those folks that may be traveling or they're homebound or things like that, how do you still enjoy that service from home and still feel a part of the congregation? So a lot of times when you just have that one camera or just have that background shot, or it's an iPhone, or whatever you're doing on the worship side, sometimes it's not really quite engaging. It doesn't capture the attention, or the audio is bad, or things like that. So how do you deal with that to where the people that are viewing it, even for later, say that you missed it, or you were in nursery that day, or you were somewhere else and couldn't actually be in the physical sanctuary for the service, you still want to go back and watch what you had missed. Well, in the old days, you used to burn them on CDs and listen to them and things like that. We did that long, long time ago at a previous church that I was in Maryland. But now we're doing this on the video side, where we're providing that content from what happened in the service, not only live, but then also post when you're dealing with YouTube or Facebook or wherever it's going after here. So that's something we can take advantage of. Oh, go ahead. No, so I was going to say, so the actual video production has become part of the service. We're not videotaping and streaming the service, but it's actually become a part of the service where video elements. I see your stage, you've got a band in you've got the big monitors at top so people can watch from the back, and I'm going to guess that you'll put up lyrics to hymns and stuff up there. So talk a little bit about just all that goes into a video production in the house of worship now, because it's so much more than just hit the button and stream to the folks at home.
Right. You're dealing with camera angles. You're dealing with close-ups. If we're doing a baptismal, you actually want to see what's going on from that service. So you need different camera angles of who's being baptized and things like that, where normally where they're placed around the sanctuary, it may not get the best shot, but we can find ways that they can get close up and see what's going on.
Yeah. And I think it increases participation. That's what I think is the most important thing. And if we can bring up the PowerPoint again, guys. Cool. You're mixing multiple cameras. You're bringing in lyrics and inspiration. You're encouraging your community at home to interact with you. Certainly, you can have live chats and social media encouraging active participation of our members. But I think the real thing about it is you're turning it from just a service into an event. And I don't want to say that this isn't to distract from the prayer and what's going on, but it's just to make it more of a community event for the people there and the people at home to join together and be a part of something that's bigger than just watching a service.
Right, exactly. And Dixon, if you would clear off the two elements, please. Thank you. So you see what's going on the live stage itself. When you have a camera that's shooting at the back of this, from the back of the sanctuary or whatever, being able to see those screens on camera is very, very difficult, because now you kind of lose focus or the words are too small. Those screens are designed to provide content for the people in the seats. So people at home can't really see what's going on. So we're adding products, not just with Flowix, with the lower thirds, or a lot of churches are already dealing with ProPresenter. ProPresenter has the NDI output. So we can take the NDI output from whatever they're feeding to the screens and feed that to a lower third or some other type of image. But now we take it a step further with our Virtual Studio Go product. So Dixon, if you were to bring back up those two elements, you will see that those two graphics popped up virtually. Now it's the same content that you see over here, over this shoulder, that's going up to the screen. I have it in this monitor here. So if Dixon were to go to the camera 2 preset, you see it stays and tracks with the camera. So as I'm moving around, the elements will then follow how we're doing it. So it's more than just having a lower third. It's now we're getting into that augmented reality where I can still be interactive with folks. And if you add that with what we're doing inside Flowix with the two screens experience, now we can provide content. We can have questions and answer sessions going on virtually from the graphic content that we're providing. So we're adding a whole lot of other elements that were usually for high-end broadcast. We found a way to get it into the house of worship market, and a lot of people are taking advantage of it. So it's not designed to make it a show, a full-on production. We want to be engaging. That's the true aspect of why we're doing all this fancy footwork with graphics. It's the engagement aspect. It's making it feel like they're a part of the service. They're not just watching something from afar.
Now, I think we should explain a little bit, because I think most of the people in video technology with house of worship understand what the one that brings in the ProPresenter is. ProPresenter is, I think, probably the industry standard for bringing in, lyrics and things, to put on the screen. But Flowix is actually a graphic engine that brings in graphics. So why don't we bring up our ProPresenter graphic? We can show people what we're talking about. Boom. There is a great example of a Flowix graphic coming up. But now when you want to bring across the lyrics to go along with the song as you're going, that's really where ProPresenter shines. And we're going to talk about ProPresenter a little bit more in the NDI section, correct?
Yeah.
But for now, let's talk about something I think is very important, especially for house of worship, where video can help you grow your congregation, and most importantly, connect with the next generation, right? Because a lot of times, and this has been going on since our grandparents and our great-grandparents, it always seems like the next generation is tougher and tougher to bring to worship, bring to church, get involved. So we wanted to bring these points across that we think are so important, and why using video technology like a TriCaster can really allow you to reach that next generation in your congregation. So, social media sharing, number one. Talk about some of the social media stuff that you guys do over there during your services.
So one thing that we can deal with in the live aspect of it when we're going live to YouTube or Facebook is actually be able to read the comments. So those can come back in through a wide variety of systems. So with Flowix, we actually have the social media integration, so we can actually see what's going on. So even though we're not taking those comments to air, we're at least paying attention to them. It's like, oh, hey, the audio doesn't sound this great, or hey, so-and-so is watching from afar. Well, we can take notes of that. So now our leadership can then deal with, okay, so-and-so was watching it at this time because they've been traveling, or they didn't come today, but we see that they're on the live streams. Now we have a reason to reach back out to them. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with social media that may not be live. It's kind of interesting how you're taking advantage of that capability, because we see what's going on, we have that feedback, and we can adjust and deal with it appropriately. And so that's another great way of utilizing those social media integrations with our graphics programs and things like that. Or if we're doing something like you mentioned, the youth group, if we're doing a youth event, in fact, there are several that are coming up this summer that I know of that are distance learning type events.
Oh,
where
cool.
You have multi-site campuses that are watching that live stream. Well, we have a way to engage with that now. So if you have a multi-site youth event that's going on, they can be interactive with each other. And you add in that graphic component of, okay, who's going to answer the question of what versus what's the location first, or how many people think this, that, and the other. So now we can see the voting engagement, and that can come up across the screen as well. So that takes that whole new engagement of outreach to a completely different level when you're dealing with that graphic content, especially with the youth that are so used to seeing everything on the screen at all times and being able to engage with that immediately and have that immediate feedback. Now we have the tools to do that. So, well, yes, we can still deal in a traditional congregational sense, but we can find ways to then interact with the youth at their level with the technology that they're used to already using.
Yeah, and one of the things I think it's important is we're not suggesting opening up social media into your service stream and having anyone enter anything they want at all. We're talking about using it where it can be curated stuff. So your point is great.
Exactly.
Hey, the audio sounds chippy, or this camera, the audio dropped out on, Jeremy, not the preacher, or what have you. But also, if you do get comments that are great comments, you can bring them into the show through Flowix so that people can feel that they're participating. But that's completely curated and moderated. And also, there's an expression, meet them where they are. And the kids are on their phones. Mm-hmm. And this is a great way to do it. And love the idea of that. But there's another aspect that we touched on earlier on the show when we cut to camera 2, if you'll recall. And that is I love the idea of using the youth in your church as part of the video production team. There they are. So these are our youth volunteers who are running the show on the TriCast. And obviously, Jeremy, being your kids, they got a little more training than most people do. But you don't just have to be the TriCaster. Someone could be just doing the graphics. Someone else could be making sure that the audio is mixed right. Someone else could be setting up the cameras and checking the camera angles. There's a lot of different ways to involve the youth in that house of worship service and video production. So I think it's great that your kids are doing it. Kudos to them. And I also love what you talked about with the youth group, because we can also use, if I have 2 churches that have these TriCast in each one, you can actually have a completely interactive event where you're talking to and sharing ideas and doing stuff with each other. So I absolutely think you've done a great job on that. And then I want to kick it to something else. There's an expression, follow the money. And the truth of the matter is to have these houses of worship and to have TriCasters in there and bands and all this other stuff, and to do the mission of whatever the missionary work is that the church is doing, and building a new wing or getting a new pews, it takes money. And we have definitely found that houses of worship that tap into video technology get a better stream of incoming money when they ask for it. So you want to talk about that a little bit in a nice way, but I think it's worth talking about.
No, that's very important. And also how to pitch this, to your leadership when you're talking about in a house worship environment. It's like, hey, we have to move to this modern technology, and here's the reasons why. And again, it's usually a capital expenditure, and I sat on deacon boards, and so I've been through all this. I know how this works. But you're talking about outreach and communal growth, and the idea is you're growing the body, and you're dealing with whatever's going on outside the church as well as inside. But when you're dealing with folks that are traveling, or they've got family, or people have moved away but still want to have a connection back to their home church, or mission fields, you mentioned that before, we have that interaction capability. So if I want to bring someone in from Zoom or whatever to talk during service, say, hey, I'm in mission field live, we're just going to say hi, we can set that up and do that as well through our systems. And so it goes back to that interactivity, and now we start to grow, and we see how the entire congregation can now start to expand, not just from inside the church, but also from outside.
And then, you know, the other thing is with all these videos, you get an archive of every service, which, as you said, in the old days, you'd buy a DVD. Now people just click on the church's website or YouTube, wherever you're publishing, to be able to see it. But those rich archives, what I love about them is you can create highlight films that could be used if, say, you're honoring a member of the congregation, or say you're having a drive for a specific mission of something you're working on, or you want to talk about how successful the last fundraiser was so that people see what's going on to give a second one. So the video is such a great tool to use as part of that in different ways. And it's more than just a link to a website. It's more than just, you know, posting the 800 number. It's really making people want, you know, to participate and give. And I think the best example I use is kind of like what the public broadcasting stations will do, where, you know, they'll integrate that drive using video from different stuff. And I just love the idea of doing that. But there's another aspect that I want to bring up in this show, and it's one of the themes I'm doing for WorshipStreamTV this year, and that is a large percentage of houses of worship, regardless of what the religion is, have an event catering space where, you know, they are doing the weddings, the bar mitzvahs, they're doing communions, they're doing graduations, they're doing events where they're honoring people who did something wonderful with the church, or a community member, or maybe someone's 100 years old and we want to have a birthday party because congregants don't always reach 100 every day. So you have this big party, and now you can stream it and produce it better. So I want to talk about that, because it's more than just being able to stream it to the folks at home. You can actually enhance your production in that space using that same TriCast you're using to produce the services. You can just move the cameras over or put some PTZ cameras in that space. And now, boom, you could be shooting video from that space to either archive the honoree, or as a package that you're enhancing to the DJs or who's ever working your event. And then you can even dress it up and maybe put some screens like those monitors, or maybe an LED video wall back there. And now your event space becomes a premium space where maybe you're even renting it out to people who are the local corporations who just want to do a sales kickoff or something. And to me, that's a great way to get a revenue stream that right now is kind of, it's out there, but it's going to other places. Why not have it come to the church, right?
Right. It's a great way to take advantage of that. And we even talk about that streaming side of it. This actually happened twice in this in 2024, where we had to live stream 2 funerals because they were family members that could not travel. And so we set up a private live event just for them to watch it remotely. And so we did have everything set up to do the live stream of the funeral service. So there's a lot of different ways you can still take advantage of what you have inside the building to benefit others. So not think about, oh, we're doing it to generate money. We're doing it to help somebody. So if you approach it from that angle, well, yes, you can accept, you know, donations or whatever for that certain event. And I'm not trying to make it seem like it's a money grab or whatever, but you're taking advantage of the technology to help other people that, you know, for whatever reason couldn't be to the service. We have a wedding coming up that I know we're going to be doing a private live stream from that as well, because people couldn't travel for various reasons. So a lot of times it's just like, hey, wait a minute, we have this is going on. Can we still do an outreach for other folks?
Yeah, and you know, we've seen that too. You brought something up, and it's a little morbid, but I'm going to go into it. Funeral homes have really jumped on live streaming and video production because, you know, think about it. It's a multi-camera shoot. We just don't want to see, there might be 2 pulpits in the funeral home. We don't just see those people speaking. We want to see the loved ones. You know,
Right.
If it's an open casket, you maybe want to show what's through the open casket. But I'm just saying it's not produced with a whole lot of flair and fun, but that's really so that those people who can't be there can feel like they're participating and honoring the person who passed. And we have seen a lot of adoption in funeral homes. It's just a side on this conversation. But let's get back to something a little bit more fun and a little more exciting. Let's talk a little bit of technology now. I think we hit on how video can benefit houses of worship. Now let's talk about a video technology that's really helping houses of worship, and that's NDI. And now I want to give a brief explanation of NDI, and you can jump on it a little more, but why I think it's so important for houses of worship. NDI is a technology was invented 5 years ago plus by Dr. Cross, who was back then was the CEO of New Tech before they got bought by Vizrt. But the cool thing about NDI is it uses your standard Ethernet networking that's in your building, Cab 6, Cab 5 power, Cab 6 cabling. And on that cabling, you get two-way transmission. I can take a PTZ camera and have the video go back to the TriCaster. And I can also control that TriCaster, do tally, bring in audio, all kinds of things back and forth. So it's a two-way communication. All devices on the network see each other. It incorporates PoE, which I love, because a lot of times if you have a historic, older church, you don't want to be running, electrical drops in order to put a camera in. But putting a low voltage PoE that's running, outside of a wall isn't so difficult to do and still can be made to look very neat. So I love that. So that's my brief pitch on NDI for houses of worship. Did I miss anything, Jeremy?
You said quite a bit. A lot of things I was going to touch on because, yeah, you can utilize that network technology for overflow. If you've got multiple spaces in the room or in the building where you can move cameras around or even displays going the other direction. If you think about overflow, a lot of times we run into this where you're doing the live stream of the service and the nursery, the cry room, the overflow, the youth space or whatever is trying to watch the same service, but they're watching it on the YouTube feed that's about 35 to 45 seconds late.
Right.
So they're way behind hearing what's going on. And so you got a lot of different audio sounds going on within the building. So if you take the NDI output and move that through, now you have close to real time going to that monitor. And so you can see and participate with everything going on live inside the sanctuary at the same time. And so you think about overflow between a local space, but also if you're going between campuses. Now you're talking about multi-site and how you're growing that way. You can utilize NDI across public internet now with NDI Bridge. And now you can take advantage of that multi-site interaction or have one live broadcast, but then you're sending feeds other places at the same time. And another thing about NDI, especially NDI 6 and 6.1, is that you're dealing with NDI on the audio side. In fact, that's kind of how you're hearing me right now. We're taking advantage of the NDI audio. So a lot of cool tools are available now in that protocol and in that ecosystem to allow you to grow and expand and be very flexible in what's ever going on in your service, but also very cost effective because you're not having to rip everything out and start over or pulling very expensive RG6 cable every which way. I can utilize standard Cat6 cabling now, and you get power over Ethernet switches, and you can plug in anything you want to all over. And you hit on a good point with the old historic buildings. We've seen that a lot. And so now we've got PoE on these cameras. So now all I have to do is hang that camera and run one Cat6 cable. So now I have my power, my video, and control all over one network jack that I can move around when necessary, or have a very low profile installation where I didn't have to pull a whole lot of electrical, a whole lot of cabling into a certain spot. And then I've got, Panduit or whatever running up and down the wall. Yep. Now it's nice and neat from one cable.
Now there's two main new features of NDI 6.1 that I want to touch on. The first one is HDR versus SDR. And I know this applies far more for, I'm going to say, sports than it does for House of Worship, but I still think it's important to talk about. And that is if you remember pre the pandemic, when we'd go to buy a TV, there were 4K TVs, and they had this UHD thing, which was the advanced color space. And what the demo used to be is they'd show you an HD image with HDR versus a 4K SDR, and then you'd be like, wow, I can't really tell the difference. And they'd put on the 4K HDR and turn it up to 11. Everything was gorgeous. And I know for older guys like me with my eyes, I see better color definition than necessarily actual definition. So for me, HDR always looks better. Where I think it's cool for houses of worship is as you get into stuff that you're getting into, first of all, the stained glass windows in the background pop much better. Mm-hmm. Houses of worship have what I'd say nominally acceptable lighting at best for video production, to give it a nice term. And you don't usually, things tend to wash out and not look as good. So by going to HDR, it's a great opportunity to make things pop a little bit better. And I know a lot of houses of worship put cameras in just during the pandemic and got whatever they could get, and most of that was HD. And I really think it's time for the churches to start thinking about those who are really producing a lot of content. I'm sorry, I got like a cramp in my hand. That's why I'm doing this. A lot of content to jump up to HDR, 4K HDR, and start replacing those older cameras, because especially within the TV monitors within the church, they're 4K. The overflow monitors are going to be 4K. We're not necessarily streaming 4K yet, but we're really getting close to it. So talk about HDR a little bit, and then we'll jump into the next category.
Yeah, so HDR is one of those fancy buzzwords in the industry that's more of a marketing term than technology, it seems, in a lot of applications, because there's so many variations of HDR. You want to make sure that stuff is compatible with each other. So that's the first thing if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But you touched on a lot of things when you're talking about older cameras and different church environments. And our building, we've got glass windows on either side. And then we've got hanging lights coming down from the ceiling. So not a very great lighting scenario for broadcast. And we're doing the best that we can. We're getting there. We're adding stuff here and there as we go. But when you talk about old historic churches or cathedrals or other types of very modern Gothic and other types of environments where the architecture is very beautiful, you want to make sure your cameras can accept all of that and show that off. And it's not just a flat, gross image with an older camera that can't find definition, it can't do color separation. So that goes back to that engagement is, hey, I'm doing a much better signal quality to start. So when it gets to that end user, they're like, oh, wow, that church looks gorgeous. I'm going to go and see it firsthand. So by having a better piece of glass to start with on the camera side, then you have a much better result on the back side.
But I think I hear what you're saying is that not all HDR is created equally. So if you're going to go to HDR, you definitely want to be consulting with your local integration salesperson dealer so that they can help you match and get gear that works together, because it's one of those labels that isn't an automatic slam dunk, but with a little bit of help and a little bit of guidance, you'll have a great transition to HDR. So one of the other things I think is interesting about HDR that I think is exciting is the enhanced alpha channel, because as we were talking about earlier, alpha channel is how ProPresenter gets brought in to your worship ceremony. So now you can bring it in super perfectly via NDI, which means all you just need is a laptop running it that's plugged into the network. It can even be Wi-Fi, correct? Oh, did we lose you, Jeremy? All right, I think we may have lost Jeremy freezing there. That's okay. We're going to bring him back as best as we can. The next section we're going to go into is on WAN connectivity. That's NDI bridge for hardware, and that's the ability to bring in people from different areas to come in. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take a quick pause now, and we're going to come right back, and hopefully we're going to have Jeremy live again. So give us a moment while we pause for this technical thing. Live stuff happens. So guys, let me bring you up to speed on what we found that just happened. This wasn't an internet connectivity problem. They actually lost power at the church that Jeremy's at. So when you're at a church, unfortunately, the power you get is what you get, and you don't get upset. But it is important to have as best power you can, power backups and stuff like that. But still, in the world of live, whatever the event is, poop happens. Stuff happens that you don't want. So Jeremy, we brought him into the show now via his phone, I believe, correct?
Yes.
So
Yep.
we're going to keep you on the phone when we talk about WAN connectivity, because that was something we wanted to talk about for the houses of worship a little bit, but not that much. And I have to go full screen. Hold on. Slideshow from current slide. Don't you just love live? So WAN connectivity is actually something that Jeremy was talking about earlier, and that's the ability that now, it used to be we could only bring in cameras within our own facility that were hardwired with HDMI or SDI. Then we got to NDI, and that allowed us to bring in cameras and sources from anywhere within the network. Well, with NDI 6, now we can bring in other instances of NDI anywhere over the world, bridge them together with something called NDI Bridge. So why don't you talk about NDI Bridge a little briefly for those churches who do have multiple campuses, or maybe you're a church that's one of many churches related to a diocese or some other kind of, a bigger umbrella, and how you can bring all your houses of worship together. And it doesn't have to be every time, but when you want to, you can. It's really easy if everyone's using a TriCaster.
Right, exactly, because you can put a camera in certain spaces and just bring that camera back as an input back into the TriCaster. So the control room doesn't move, the control room doesn't change, but you're adding more remote locations and edge devices in different spots. So now you can take advantage of multi-site without the extra cost of an MLPS network or dedicated fiber or things like that. You're traversing public internet,
Cool.
just like normal people do. But with NDI Bridge, it's an encryption signal. So now you don't have to worry about it getting stepped on or getting intercepted by anybody or having someone join that you don't want. So that's something that we can take advantage of with NDI Bridge.
Now, one of the interesting things with the latest version of NDI 6 is there's actually PTZ cameras coming out now that you can set up to be able to, let's say, call home to your house of worship. So if you had someone who maybe was on a mission overseas, you could send them that PTZ camera. They could plug it in, and now you could just bring them into the show without any additional equipment, correct? I mean, they'd have to have a good, internet connection, but that's all you need.
Right, and then with that bridge connectivity, they go right back to your local location. That removes the need for doing third-party applications like Zoom and Teams. While they're fantastic and they do a great job, but for a lot of applications, they want that direct connection and not have to rely on other edge devices. So now you're just talking about one signal that's coming from one camera that we embed the audio into the camera, and that our camera's already set up for that. And so now that is the long haul going back to the TriCaster.
And
So
NDI 5 kind of started it, but we needed a computer. With NDI 6, we just need a device with the NDI 6 bridge enabled, and it could just attach to the internet, talk to our system, and boom, we're bringing someone in, which I think is just so incredibly cool. I just can't get over that. So this was a phenomenal show. I want to thank you very, very much. I think we learned a lot. Thank you for participating in Worship Stream. A few more days to still go. Jeremy, this was fantastic.
Hey everybody, thank you for staying with us as Jeremy talked about various different reasons as to why you may want to live stream in your house of worship, and then also explaining some of the new features with NDI 6, including HDR and 10-bit color and all of that great stuff. If you want to learn more about TriCasters and their new products, definitely make sure to stay tuned tomorrow, because we will be bringing Jeremy back to talk about the TriCaster Vision and the TriCaster Mini S. So definitely stay tuned for that. Also, if you have any questions that you have during these segments, please feel free to comment in the chat and ask your questions. We have people moderating the chat. I'll be here to try and answer some questions live as they come through as well. And so, yeah, we're going to move on to our next segment, and that is going to be with Dan from BirdDog, and he is going to talk about their latest generation of PTZ cameras, which are Wi-Fi capable, which is really cool. Again, this is going to be a pre-recorded segment because Dan joined us all the way from Australia, so we had to record this pretty early in the day to make this work with him, and we are super grateful that he was able to join us and record this segment. So we're going to play that for you now.
Hey, this is Jim with WorshipStreamTV. On our next segment, I wanted to introduce Dan Miall from BirdDog, who is going to introduce the latest generation of BirdDog technology products and how they are excellent solutions in your house of worship. Hey, Dan, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Jim, thanks very much for having me. It's really exciting to be on the show.
It's always a pleasure to have you. We are recording with you today all the way from Australia, so thank you very much for taking the time to join us here on WorshipStreamTV.
No problems at all. Always happy. It's morning time here, afternoon. It could be anywhere in the world, but we're always happy to be on board with you guys.
No, I really appreciate that. And Dan, I understand you just got back from the ISE show in Barcelona, right?
That's right. That was a really exciting show for us. ISE's kind of, it's traditionally it's Integrated Systems Europe is the name of the show. So traditionally it's more of like an AV type show, but it was really fascinating for me to see the kind of joining up of different workflows. And there's a lot of things that I think would be really interesting for workflows for worship type applications as well. So I really see the two industries of AV and live streaming starting to really come together. It was really fascinating.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, our best equivalent here in the U.S. would be the Infocom show, which will be in Florida this June. So we're definitely looking forward to that. But I know Dan is going to be in the U.S. here for the NAB show coming up in April. And of course, we're inviting you to join us on WorshipStreamTV to talk specifically about the religious marketplace and how these cameras and other solutions are going to help you with your live streaming and live productions in houses of worship. So, Dan, for our audience who maybe is not familiar with BirdDog, can you introduce BirdDog, kind of the history of the company, and where we're going with the next generation of cameras?
Sure thing. So from my perspective, I'm obviously very familiar with BirdDog. I'm one of the founders, and I'm really excited about what we've always set out to achieve, and really where we're at now. Jim, you mentioned about cameras, and I think if someone has heard of BirdDog before, it's probably around cameras. We make a whole range of PTZ cameras, and we've got a brand new range that we'll talk about probably a bit more today. But for us, it's actually much more about how we actually make a production or how we make a live stream come together. So we're always about workflows is what we call it, which is joining up different parts of the system so they work together really well. It's all well and good to have a great camera, but if you don't have everything else working in concert with that, you're not going to end up with a great result. So that's really what BirdDog set out to do. We are a technology company, and we quite often go deep diving into all sorts of acronyms and things. But really what we set out to do is make easily understandable video technology for doing live streaming and live events. So some of those things can be fixed installations. So for example, what you'd probably think of more of a traditional worship installation inside a house of worship would have a couple of cameras that are permanently installed. But we're also excellent at making portable solutions, which makes it really easy for dealing with some of those special occasions or external services that you might do as well. And all of that is about wrapping it up together in a really convenient way to make you look great.
Excellent, Dan. So you talk a lot about the workflows and house of worship technology, and we want to talk about the workflows that churches are using. And a lot of them are really getting involved in a multi-camera production, where we've personally found that a 3-camera setup is somewhat ideal in a lot of church setups. You'll have maybe one camera centered back as the main camera, usually with a wider field of view, a longer zoom range, to get the entire stage area at the front of the church. Then you'll have a side angle that is either going to be dedicated to a speaker podium or maybe even a choir. And then, of course, you have a front or balcony where you can get a worship reaction. You can get a separate area of your services. And of course, that can vary from one service to the next as you start putting these events together. And one of the things that's great is through your workflow solutions, you're really making it easy to get that multi-camera type configuration with just a single Cat6 connection, right?
Absolutely. And so I guess probably to talk a little bit about that, I think workflow for us, or for me anyway, is very much a term that I like to use, but really it's about connecting things up. It's about making a solution. So for us, our solutions or workflows are all about making things look effectively like television. We all have been there before, where if you've got one camera, it kind of looks like you're on a Zoom call or a web stream. It doesn't look engaging. And what we've seen over time is having the ability to switch between angles and focusing when people are talking gives people a whole lot more engagement, which means people are more prepared to watch and they'll listen more to what you've got to say. So having that multi-camera production makes a whole lot of sense. And that's where we've really started to really draw in on how you can do that. And you've nailed it exactly, Jim, where effectively you want to have a main shot which gives everyone the context, but then to be able to control other cameras and remotely move them by pan, tilt, and zoom, which is what our cameras do, to focus in on some areas of interest, really make the stream a whole lot more engaging and a lot more visible. And what we find is you get a lot more viewers with that. It becomes effectively like a television stream. And one thing that we've really focused on from the get-go with building our cameras is making sure that they are TV quality cameras. We use only Sony sensors, and importantly, we're all about making image quality the front and center of the show. So it makes you look great, it stops it looking like a web stream, and has a lot more engagement in there. And then, of course, as you start to grow that out from what we'd call a traditional 3-camera setup, you can then have additional things like overflow rooms, and that's where the rest of our solutions come in. We've got a whole bunch of different technology to put behind your TV screens to display the video from the cameras or your live production as well.
And when you talk about that technology, you're really talking about cutting edge AV over IP technology with NDI integrated across the entire BirdDog solution. So now the cameras with a single Cat6 connection can get your audio video feed. You can take power with PoE type connectivity, and you can even get the control of all of these PTZ cameras with greatest new item introduced at ISE, the BirdDog KBD controller. So now it really does give you that entire workflow solution where that connectivity is allowing you to access this multi-camera production and really produce, like you said, a produced show as opposed to just a single camera feed which would be a video stream from a house of worship. Now we're able to produce with all of this different content, switching back and forth very easily and live, with tools that really any volunteer can walk into the church and start using very easily. So, Dan, I would love to take this opportunity to ask you to introduce us to the KBD.
Alrighty. Well, actually, one thing I will just back up a touch on is that single Cat6 cable. Now, that's your blue network cable. And I think that's the magic of our solution is everything is connected just via a regular network. You don't need to have a TV engineer with a lab coat. If you've got a network connection inside your building, then ultimately you're kind of ready to go with our solutions. And the extension of that is something I'm really excited about, which you just announced there, Jim, was our KBD, which is our keyboard controller. Now, of course, our cameras, as we mentioned, they're PTZ cameras, which is remote pan, tilt, and zoom. So you can move around and focus in on a shot. And that works really well with any type of control, whether that's on your computer, whether it's being used via a remote control. But with this KBD controller, it takes it to the next level. You've got a joystick controller, which allows you to really fine-tune adjustments. And one of the things you might notice is most PTZs, if you've seen them before, if you want to move them, they seem to move a little bit robotically because they are robotic cameras. And we've really cracked that code with our KBD controller tied up with our cameras to be able to do really fine adjustments. So if you've got someone that's a bit of a walker while they're talking, you can just bump the camera just a little bit and no one will even notice that the camera's moved. You can be really subtle with the movements. On top of that, you've got all of the main controls. So we all know that certainly in houses of worship, you'll find over the course of the day, you've got different types of light environments that will happen. And some cameras can be really hard to dial in and make them look good. They might look great right at the start, but then over time, that's going to change. With the KBD controller, it's very easy just to dial in that color adjustment or the exposure just to get it exactly right. And the important thing for us is all of our products are designed to be straightforward. They all look and feel and work in the same way. So if you've got someone that's not necessarily doing this every single day of the week, they can still jump on our system and it does feel familiar. It's very easy to use. We've got a whole bunch of features in here, which I could list through entirely, but some of the important ones are we've got a screen. It's a giant screen on this controller, which gives you views of all of your cameras. So you can see exactly what each camera is looking at and easily adjust it. You've got everything front and center, and it makes it really easy to get the best shots, which again, just elevates that production. It stops it from looking like maybe an amateur production or a web stream and makes it look like television.
And I think with that multi-view display screen, it's going to make this tool very easy for a volunteer. And a lot of churches do rely on volunteer resources. Someone maybe without a professional production background to be able to come in and still produce the stream because they're going to see all the information coming out from those cameras. They'll be able to select the best shot or the desired shot throughout the production. And you can even pre-program some preset controls through these keyboard functions as well, right?
Totally. And one of the other things, which I wish you could see what I'm looking at, I'm actually using one of our cameras here, and we've got this thing called tally on our cameras, and it's a big light that goes around the whole front of the camera. And with the keyboard as well, with the KBD controller, whichever camera is being used at the moment, the live camera gets a big red border around it. It keeps the people looking at the camera so they know which one to look at, so it looks more professional. But as a camera operator, when you're working with the KBD, you also get that same big red border on the view that you have of the camera. So you know which camera you're working with and which camera is live on air at the moment. So it makes it really easy to know exactly what's going on. And again, the whole point of this is that if you're an occasional user, there's things in here that we've built in, some cues that make it really clear about what you're doing to make it the best result possible.
Absolutely. And it really becomes the cornerstone for that multi-camera production that we were talking about, which is what enabled us to go with some different bundles and combos to get that 3-camera setup with these BirdDog solutions. So Dan, I know that your entry-level cameras are the X1, the X1 Ultra. Tell us a little bit about those cameras, and then we'll talk about some of the bundles that are available with the KBD.
Sure thing. So I'm going to pick you up a little bit there because they are an entry-level camera, of course they are, but the bang for the buck you get on these things is really quite amazing. The image quality that we have out of these and the amount of features that are built into them are just second to none. So they're a tiny little camera. They're designed to be pretty unobtrusive in any type of environment, but they are all about making the best quality pictures and effectively making your live production look as best as possible. Our X1 series cameras is available in either an HD version or a 4K version. So depending on the kind of environment you'd like to work in, the HD one has a longer zoom. So if you've got a bigger room, it gives you a longer zoom. Where the 4K one has higher clarity. So if you've got some areas where you need a whole lot of detail, then the 4K one, which is the X1 Ultra, will give you a better image quality from there. Beyond that, they both share effectively the same platform. We've got some really innovative features. I spoke before about the tally system, which is that light that goes around the whole front of the lens. We call that the halo tally system. And really the point of this is that it draws the eyes of whoever's supposed to be looking at the camera directly into the lens. And it's truly unique and it makes a big difference to the quality of the production. From a maintenance point of view, we've also got the world's first camera that's got an e-ink display on it. Now, you may have had a look at things like Kindles before or e-paper readers, where it's effectively it's a screen, but it stays on even when the camera is, or even when the device is turned off. And we've included that inside the camera itself. One of the things that we've got with all of our cameras is they're network connected. So sometimes trying to find the controls and things, you need to look for a web page or something. On that e-ink display, you can just scan that with your phone and it's a QR code on there and it takes you straight to all the settings. Again, that whole point of making things as easy as possible. And that goes through the entire range of our products. One of the really cool things that we've got on the X1 series, though, is a decode function. And NDI decode is really cool for a bunch of different reasons. You can plug in a screen and effectively you can send another piece of video to the X1 to have that display out onto an HDMI screen. That could be anything from what we'd call a confidence monitor to show what you're actually working on through to any sort of output you'd like. The other big thing that we've got with these cameras is Wi-Fi. And Wi-Fi is a really great feature, especially for some people in houses of worship, where you may have a building that's more of a historical significance. And so for that, you don't necessarily want to be running cables and things all over the place. So having the ability to run Wi-Fi can be really handy. And especially, as I mentioned earlier, some of those special services where you might need to go outdoors or you have a camera in a different room, you don't need to run cables all over the place. So this little camera is packed with a whole bunch of features. And I suppose it's almost BirdDog personified. We take what you'd expect from a camera, and then we add a whole bunch of extra features that are really beneficial to getting a better production. So X1's a really great option. And with these bundles that we bundle that up with 3 of them. As we spoke about before, having a 3-pack or 3 cameras makes a great deal of sense for an engaging production. And we also have the keyboard that joins in with that as well. So everything joined together in a bundle that's got everything you need effectively.
And with that is a bundle savings where you are going to save off of the package when you get those 3 cameras with the keyboard. And I actually have the S1 Ultra on the table here in front of me to just show you how small and compact that camera is with that antenna connected to the back of it here. So really it is. It's a great model. It's a great camera to look at, giving you the choice of the HD or 4K workflows, depending on what's right for your house of worship. The next step up would be the X4 Ultra. Dan, tell us what we're getting with that X4 model.
So X4 takes everything I've just spoken about with X1 in terms of image quality and convenience to the next level. It's 4K, but it's also got that zoom that I was talking about as well. So it's got a 20 times zoom, which means it's great for larger rooms. It's 4K 60, so it's high frame rate. If you want to do anything that's got more advanced movement or fast movement, it's going to give you a better image quality from there. But probably the biggest differentiator between the X1 and this X4 model is the fact that it's designed from the ground up to be a wireless camera. So it's got a more powerful wireless system. It's using Wi-Fi 6, which is the latest technology, but it's also got a built-in battery as well, which means it's a completely standalone unit that you can place wherever you'd like. And effectively, you can access that camera straight over the Wi-Fi network that you have and work with that within your live stream. It means that you can get some really creative shots, opportunistic shots when there's things going on that you don't need to run cables and things around. But the big thing with this is the image quality goes another step up as well. So all of the features I've spoken about in terms of the halo tally and the e-ink display are all in there. But now this is in a truly wireless package with batteries built in and an even more powerful connection.
And Dan, one of the questions we get from churches all the time is about the running time on that battery. What is a typical runtime on that X4 Ultra?
So that does depend on what you're doing in terms of if you have a whole lot of movement and things. What we see is on average, we're getting about 6 hours of runtime. So it's a pretty long time.
More than
If you
enough
did
for your
need to run,
typical services.
absolutely, yeah. And if you
Sure.
did need to run longer, it's got a USB port on the back, so you could run a power bank if you wanted to and run it effectively indefinitely. But inbuilt into it is about 6 hours of runtime.
That's great. And then the next step up would be the X5 Ultra. So this is what we would consider that flagship product within the BirdDog product line right now. That X5 Ultra is going to give you that 4K P60 capability, right there?
That's right. So this one, we've taken everything as far as our technology and built it into it. So it's got 4K 60, all of the things I was talking about in terms of the zoom lens and everything on there. The big step up here is the robotic control, again, goes one step above. So again, if you've got things where you want to do some really nice smooth movements, and this can be really important for, again, special type services or where you're wanting to have something zoomed in really tight and do a really nice slow pan where typically you'd need to have some kind of camera operator to do it. The X5 is really up to the task. So the big thing with this guy is the robotics control. It's also got a whole host of extra connectivity on the back. We've spoken, Jim, about the NDI side of things, and I think that's a really powerful story, which we very much love. But if you had other systems in your facility, which might be things like SDI, which is more of a traditional workflow, the X5's got the top end of that SDI connection as well. So really, it's giving you the best of everything. You can decode video, like I was mentioning before, and I'd like to probably expand on that a bit in a minute. But we can decode video. We've got 12G SDI, highest quality images, and really the best robotic control that you can find.
That's excellent. And that's exactly what I want to do, Dan, is I want to talk about some of the different features across these BirdDog cameras and how they fit into churches and the typical installations. I will mention that the X4, the X5 are available in combos. When you do 3 of those cameras, BirdDog is offering a free KBD controller. So you can take the X4, X5, you can even mix and match some of those models to take advantage of that promotion to get that free KBD controller. And that is available from all BirdDog premium partners here in the US, all supporters of WorshipStreamTV. So you can reach out to us and we can help connect you with a local integrator in your area to take advantage of those great combo deals. Now, we talked a little bit about the wireless connectivity on the X1 series and the X4 Ultra. Wireless is really one of those features that can play really nice in a house of worship where they do need to deploy an additional camera very quickly for different things that might happen throughout the year, right?
Totally. So wireless is one of those things which for us has been a really logical step. We've pioneered in a lot of ways this network-based live production. We were the first people to have NDI-based converters and then ultimately moved through to cameras and things as well. But once you're on a network, why can't you do it in Wi-Fi? Why can't you have it wireless? And we've been perfecting that over the last few years, which is really where these X series of cameras come in. And effectively what we're able to do is take all of that magic that we can do with one cable and make that completely wireless. And that really is very powerful. Like I was mentioning earlier, if you've got a special event or something where you wanted to put a camera in a location, running cables can be a whole bunch of hassle. You can have trip hazards that you need to worry about, but ultimately just trying to get that working together, running long network cables can be a challenge. But running it with Wi-Fi and with a camera that's designed from the ground up to be wireless means that you can get those productions looking great and get effectively a camera angle where you want it rather than where you have to place it. And then on top of that, the other side of things, what we're finding people are getting a bit excited about this is also in more historical buildings where you don't necessarily want to be drilling holes and running conduit for cables, but you might have access to power. So that side of things also lends itself really well to Wi-Fi. And you'll notice on that image there that we've got, there's actually a little box that's next to the camera, and that's our Wi-Fi receiver box. And it's probably worth talking about this just briefly, is our cameras are compatible with regular Wi-Fi. If you've already got a Wi-Fi set up inside your building, they'll work with it. But we also make our own receiver box, which is designed to work specifically with the cameras. It's using effectively the same chips inside, so they'll talk the same language. We get the most amount of range and the highest quality. It also makes it a whole lot easier because you have something that's pre-configured to work with both the camera and the receiver. It's up to you how you want to set that up, but it gives you another layer of simplicity and also predictability with that wireless.
Absolutely. And I think with the new X series of cameras, BirdDog is using NDI HX3. And that high bandwidth is kind of what's helping you take advantage of having that rock solid AV connection over Wi-Fi, right?
Absolutely, and I'm going to do a little bit of a brag here. I'm generally pretty humble with these things, but we are the only company that offers NDI HX3, which is the very latest standard, which is really stringent in terms of the image quality, but also the speed that it transfers. Our entire range of products are NDI HX3 certified, and we're the only company that's got that. And that's something we're really proud of and something we've worked on really hard to make sure that we're giving the best quality pictures and the uncompromising connectivity along the way. So that HX3 is really a ticket to making sure that you've got that high quality, what we call low latency or very fast connectivity. So you don't have delays and lip sync issues, but also that reliability of that connection, even if it's over Wi-Fi. So I think it's a really exciting part of what we offer. It's bordering on a bit nerdy and technical, but it is something that I think is pretty important.
No, absolutely. I think it's something that's very important because it is releasing some of that new features and capabilities, allowing your cameras to be used in applications like you talked about the historical buildings that maybe traditional cameras can't be installed in. So anything that expands that capability, especially in this marketplace, is definitely worth talking about. And I think one of the top new features that a lot of church people are asking about is auto tracking. And throughout the entire BirdDog product line, you have implemented AI auto tracking, right?
Absolutely. Look, you can't walk out your front door without reading something about AI. So, of course, our latest generation cameras, and this is something that's really important, is all of our cameras have been released inside the last 7 or 8 months. They're all brand new, which is really exciting. They're the latest technology out there. But AI was very much at the core of all of our products. And what we call auto tracking is only one part of it. So with auto tracking, effectively, you can make a camera fall in love with a presenter, and everywhere that presenter moves, the camera is going to move with it and with them and follow them. And it means that you don't have to sit there and necessarily control the camera all the time, and you can have a tighter shot. You can zoom in a bit closer. Where if you don't have AI tracking, then you need to be zoomed out a bit further to make sure there's a bit of room for people to walk around. Our AI tracking is designed to be effectively the best it can be in terms of the smoothness of those moves and how it actually operates. We've got some really great features in there, though. One of the things that you'll see in cameras, a lot of cameras do now have a level of AI tracking, but we've got this ability where you can adjust and monitor who that camera is looking at. If you've got 2 or 3 people on the stage, it can happen that some cameras will switch and decide to follow someone else. And then all of a sudden, it all just sort of falls apart in terms of how you're wanting to track someone. With the BirdDog AI tracking, we have the ability where you can see a border around the person that it's being followed. And actually, with our keyboard, you can adjust that. You can move and tell the camera to work with another person. So it's really interactive to make sure that the camera is doing what you expect. The other thing that we've got, which takes AI tracking to the next level, and I think it's really applicable inside a house of worship, is our zone-based tracking. So instead of the camera following a person around, what it does is it understands when a person moves out of an area, it will then move the camera to a different preset. So say, for example, someone's standing at a pulpit and they're talking. As they move away from there, the camera knows if they move to the left, it needs to move to a different location. And it'll recall that preset automatically. And it means that effectively you can follow someone around the building. So rather than having an auto tracking where it's moving around following a person, as a person moves to a different area, it's recalling that preset to move the camera there. So we've got a great deal of automation features, I suppose, with AI. And for us, the big thing with that is that we're only just getting started. Even though this range is brand new, we've been adding consistently more and more smarts and features with AI. And we think that's really an area where it's going to grow a lot. We've got a lot of things planned in that AI space.
And that's an important thing to know, too, when you're talking about growing these features and capabilities, is that these cameras are upgradable in the field. So once they are installed in your church and these tools get better, you will get those upgrades and you will get the additional performance and capabilities, whether it's from the auto tracking capabilities, the zone controls, or any other features that BirdDog implements throughout this product line, right?
Absolutely. It's something we've got a long history of that we're really proud of. We're not a company that's going to hold back a feature for a new model that we want you to buy. We're a company that builds new technology and we want people to use it. So we upgrade along the way the cameras that you have and add additional features. So of course, all of those AI functions fall into that category as well.
Absolutely. And then Dan, another feature that you touched on a little bit already was that decoding capability. Can you go into that a little bit deeper and tell us a lot more about how that would fit into this market?
Sure thing. And I think the NDI decode feature, when we first announced the X1 camera, which is the first of these new products that we announced, people were kind of scratching their heads going, wait, what does this mean? And really, it's very deliberate for us. A camera is one thing. We're, as I mentioned right at the start, we're about workflows and solutions. More often than not, if you've got a camera pointing at someone, you'd like to have some kind of monitor. It might be if you've got a presentation, or if you're wanting to see something like what we call a confidence monitor, or a return feed to show what the show is doing. But it could also be used for in an overflow room, or maybe there's a family area where you might want to have a camera there so that you can use that video as well. But they also need a screen to see what's going on. So why do we need multiple pieces of hardware? The camera itself can be the hub of all of your video in that space. So as you have a camera either at the front of a stage, or the front of an area, or even on a wall inside a family area, more often than not, you would benefit from having a screen near that for some reason or another. And with our BirdDog cameras, with the X1 and X5 specifically, it means that you can send any video you like over that NDI HX connection to the screen. So it makes that camera effectively a two-in-one device. It's not purely sending video to your live stream. You can send video back to it to have people interact and be part of that show as well.
You know, one of the applications I'm thinking of as you're talking about this workflow is that if I have a camera mounted towards the choir, that I could be sending an NDI feed of the lyrics to the hymn as the choir is going through their performance.
Absolutely. And you can do all sorts of things with that. You can let them know what's the next song coming up, or there's a whole bunch of different ways that you could have a benefit of having that. But that's a perfect example, Jim. So.
And it's a great thing to note when we talk about these NDI workflows is once you get your video source, any video source on the network, that source is available to every other device on the network. So it allows you this matrix routing where you can have a monitor, a production system, even a controller, access anything that's on that network to really give you that increased production capabilities, making for a better workflow, which is really what we've been talking about this entire time.
Yeah, totally. And I actually think I changed my mind a few years ago. NDI, and again, I'm conscious that there's all sorts of acronyms around the place, but NDI is something that we hold dear to our hearts in terms of that's the technology we use to send video over the network. It's generally used or seen as some technologies for production, but actually it's very much a distribution format as well. We've got places where we have hundreds of screens that are receiving that NDI. So on top of it being your production side of things with cameras and various other sources that you might want to have, it's also your distribution system. So if you want to have video that can go either across your building, across your campus, or ultimately across the world, you can use NDI for all of that, for distributing once you've made that video as well.
Absolutely. And, you know, we touched on the next generation of products available from BirdDog now. We talked specifically about the hardware products with the PTZ cameras and the KBD controller. But BirdDog also has an entire suite of tools to make your productions more robust than ever. We talked about using some of their cameras with existing cameras that you might have in a church. BirdDog Color will allow you to get the best color matching out of your cameras as you go in and use them. BirdDog Central, BirdDog Cloud will allow you remote management of all of these devices. So again, when you talk about these network connected devices, there is a whole ecosystem that we'll have to invite Dan on for another show to talk about, right?
Totally. And I think that's what we're all about. And a great example is actually, again, the sort of applications we're talking about here, where if you're in a TV studio, there's someone that's using this camera every single day and they know it inside out. If you're looking at it through a house of worship lens, maybe it's only once a week. And having that remote connectivity with something like BirdDog Cloud means that if you need to phone a friend, they can immediately connect and they can adjust it like they were in the building. There's a whole bunch of extra little features that we add within our cameras and our products to make it as connected and easy as possible. So it's a pretty exciting place to be, I think, in terms of how this technology can firstly make it look effortless to make a production look great. But also the fact that everything is joined together. You don't have these little islands of having to make one thing work to then try to string it together to something else. Everything's designed to work together.
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned at the top of the show, WorshipStreamTV has more features, capabilities, access to these products for all of your House of Worship solutions. We can connect you with a BirdDog premium partner here in the US, someone in your local area who is trained, certified, and ready to help you install the best multi-camera environment for your church. Or you can give us a call and we could help walk you through any of the entire setup. We can take advantage of any volunteer, technical, or even on-staff IT resources that you have available to get these systems up and running. Dan, thank you so much for joining us on WorshipStream TV.
Always happy to be here. Thanks very much, Jim.
Be sure to tune in for our next segment.
It's always great when we get to have Dan or anybody from BirdDog join us to talk about the latest and greatest in terms of PTZs and the technology and expanding them. Some of my favorite takeaways are, of course, having that Wi-Fi capability with Wi-Fi 6 and NDI HX3. But one of my favorite features of the new BirdDog cameras is the HDMI decoder that is built right into the camera. So if you need to be able to have a confidence monitor or something like that for whoever is giving the sermon that day, you don't have to, go get some more equipment. You can literally just take the HDMI out of the back of the camera, plug that into a TV, and now you can decode any video source that's on your network. So it's really great that Dan was able to join us and talk about some of the new products that are coming out from BirdDog. Next up, we have Mark Ma joining us from Kiloview. Kiloview makes a lot of NDI encoders and decoders, but they also make encoders and decoders that work with RTMP, SRT, and other IP protocols. And they also make NDI distribution systems with their Cube X1, and the Cube R1 is an NDI recorder, so you can have up to 4 channels in 4K or 9 channels at 1080p to be able to record, all of your camera feeds during your service. But anyway, we're going to hand this over to Mark Ma, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Hey, this is Jim with WorshipStream TV. Thank you for joining us for our next guest, being joined by Mark at Kiloview, talking about how Kiloview products are empowering live streaming and live production in houses of worship. We are going to be talking about a few different applications across the Kiloview product line that can really help you and your church with all your live streaming needs. Hey, Mark, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Jen. Nice to meet you.
So on today's show, we're going to introduce Kiloview to our audience on WorshipStream TV. We're going to talk about why Kiloview is why streaming for houses of worship matter. So we're going to talk about the live production needs that these churches are running into day in and day out. We'll talk about the Kiloview solutions and some specific applications where these products that I have here on set with me can be used in your church, and why Kiloview is the right choice for these products, these solutions, everything from cellular bonding to NDI production to encoding, decoding, and more. So without further ado, Mark, please introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about who Kiloview is.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Mark. I'm the pre-sales engineer of Kiloview. So Kiloview is a Chinese company, and which is actually based in Changsha. And our products are mainly about the AV over IP infrastructure, which can be divided into 3 categories. The capture side is much about the encoder, and the destination part is more about the decoder, but also have distribution like a Cube X1 and the recorder. And we also have some centralized management tools like Kilolink Server Pro. And our folks, 80% is put on the NDI side, but we also do some other kinds of streaming protocol like the Dentic AV, the SRT as well.
And you'll see how this workflow can really walk you through everything from content to delivery in your church. And we're going to talk about some specific setups today and specific applications that can help with all of your streaming needs. Kiloview is a Chinese-based company. Broadfield Distributing is their US distributor here, and we have a nationwide network of certified installers and system integrators who are using these products and these tools every single day. So you get the support of these certified installers and the entire NDI team, the Kiloview team, and everyone here in the US to help walk you through all of your house of worship production needs. If you have any questions about these Kiloview products or need help finding the right solution to you, you can reach out to anyone on our WorshipStreamTV team, and we can help connect you with anyone across the way. Mark, thank you for the introduction to Kiloview. I know Kiloview is making a huge commitment to support churches all across the world in their house of worship streaming needs. What are some parts of that commitment?
Yes, I think talk about Kiloview. Actually, we are talking about the live streaming. So I think our commitment to the house of worship is the solution are typically designed to provide a high quality and affordable streaming products. So we want to simplify the production process and help our customer transmission to IP world more smoothly.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that we noticed with the Kiloview products is they all are professional grade, enterprise built. These products are products that you can install in your house of worship and set them and forget them. They're going to do the job that they were set up to do. It's very important when you are working on the mission critical applications where you need to know that your system is going to be up and running week in and week out, and that you're going to be ready to stream all of your services as they matter. And that's what's important when we talk about these products and these applications today, is that streaming is important for the house of worship market, right, Mark?
Yeah. So about the streaming for house of worship matters. So we have three. I think we have three topics right here. So the first one is streaming enable worship's service to reach more people beyond the church walls. So just imagine that for the COVID situations and when we block and at home, so we want this now be matters for in the future. And then you can combine multiple churches for a big event and across different communities under the same face. And also engage the followers with high quality video contents, not just sit in the place and do something traditional pray things.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a great way to take advantage of all the resources available for your church with remote production capabilities, single camera, multi-camera capabilities, and some of the different solutions that we're going to talk about today. The Kiloview products allow you to handle all of that, right, Mark?
Yeah. So our solutions are more around the NDI IP, so which can start from a single camera to multi-camera production, just in one location, and then you can expand to multiple remote sites. Let these remote sites participating together in one event.
Absolutely, and we're going to talk about applications for each of them. I want to start with some of the newest products in the Kiloview product line. That would be the P3 and the P3 Mini with the cellular bonding encoder. Now, this is going to allow you to take advantage of mobile live streaming. You can take any single camera and use these products with cellular bonding to stream from anywhere. Can you walk us through some of that workflow, Mark?
Yeah. The workflow would be the camera would be send signals to P3, and the P3 use its 4G and the 5G abilities to send the bonding data to the cloud or be on-prem. Could be the Kilo Link Server Pro, which is our bonding server, and then the bounding server will create streams to different platform. So for these kinds of unique scenario, I think just one cameraman to operate everything. So the cameraman need to often moves around quad, so which requires a lightweight encoder can be mounted on camera or carried on his back. So therefore, the movement cannot be restricted by cables, and it might need to stream directly to the Worship website, the homepage. I mean.
Absolutely, and you have multiple products here available. I'm going to show you the products right here on the table in front of me. We have the P3 Mini, which is the affordable, cost-effective entry-level system here with 4G capability, and then the P3, which would be their capability of 4G and 5G cellular bonded modems, and both are available for all of your cellular bonded needs. Mark, can you tell us a little bit more about the differences between those two encoders?
Yeah. Thanks, James. You have actually mentioned a lot of features for P3 Mini. So the P3, the bigger one, there are 4 slots. Can be inserted with 4 5G or 4 4G modems. Also, you can combine them together with 2+2 or 1+3. Depends on needs, and it also go with the Wi-Fi and Ethernet channel. So totally up to 9 bonding channels could be supported in P3, and the resolution can be up to 4K 30p if you're using HDMI connection. This box also support a richer streaming protocol like SRT, RTMP, HLS, you name it. So which means you can create a lot of streams and send to different platforms simultaneously. Another thing is about battery. You can see here 2 battery in this box: the internal battery and external battery. Internal battery and external battery. Okay, and the battery can be supported over 9 hours for your daily usage. So which is, I think, is quite enough. The P3 Mini actually has the same concept, but much more compact, which is only 4G based and up to 5-channel bonding, HD resolution. But from the outside, from the looks, you can see from the looks you can see P3 Mini. One difference is the P3 Mini has 4 external antennas, but for the P3, the antennas is built in the 5G and the 4G modems.
Absolutely, and with the cellular bonding, it really gives your church the flexibility to stream from anywhere, allowing you to stream from within the church itself or to get out to stream from community events. That's something that more and more houses of worship are looking to get involved in, because it really is an extension of the community. So having that capability of bringing that camera anywhere in the field is one of the big advantages of these systems. You can tell us a little bit more about some of the other benefits here too.
Yeah, I can't agree more. So P3 Mini is a very cost efficiency solution, which gives you the flexibility for both indoor and outdoor use. Because it's very easy to operate, because there are a big touch screen on the box, so the cameraman can easily to do the configuration and operation in any size of the church, and because there is no cabling connection with the skiers, so which means the cameraman can move anywhere he want to be.
Excellent. And now the second solution I wanted to talk about was where we're giving you the one camera to a cellular bonding encoder. Kiloview has a full catalog of products in the NDI connectivity space, allowing you to take a multi-camera operation with AV over IP, running a single cable to all of your video sources within your church production to get live streaming out into the world using protocols like NDI. Can you walk us through that workflow and how that would look with these Kiloview products?
Yeah. So, okay, in this diagram, there are actually 2 different encoders on the left side, and for some processing requirements, it's on the right side, which is Cube X1 NDI distribution system and the Cube R1 recording system. So for this solution, we mainly focus on how to process video for multiple angles when more professional broadcast service are required. To engage our audience, our followers maybe from the remote side.
Absolutely, and I'll walk you through some of the products here. Is the N5, the N60. These encoders are available in either HDMI or SDI connectivity, so they'll work with any cameras that you have in your workflow. You can record it on recorded devices like the Cube R1 or get distribution with the Cube X1. And if you're looking to set up your cameras in an NDI environment with the network switch, we have a nationwide network of integrators that are fully certified and trained in these Kiloview products to help you get the right products across your workflow. So again, we're talking about NDI encoders, decoders, we're talking about recorders, and even multi-viewers. Mark, you guys really have a product for every aspect across that NDI product line, don't you?
Yeah. So actually, like you mentioned about N series, all the modules are the B direction converter. So like N5, N6, which are the HD based NDI IP converter, supported both full NDI and NDI effects. So N50 and 60 are the most advanced all-in-one converter of Kiloview. Except NDI, it can also support streaming via RTMP and SRT stream directly. So which means if you just want to do a single camera streaming to your YouTube channels or maybe other platforms, then you can use N50 and 60 to do that, and it will not distribute on your local NDI production. And for the multi-angle recording, so Cube R1 is typically designed for this purpose. We can support up to 9 channels, HD-based and 4-channel UHD-based recording at the same time. And for the Multiview Pro, which actually is a very interesting product because this is a software-based solution that the users can create customized multi-view layout and send it to a different place via NDI as well. So which also gives you a Windows version and a Mac OS version as well.
That's right, and that's one of the things you'll see too is that Kiloview has a lot of their hardware products supported by the software applications to really get you the best of both worlds, allowing you to take advantage of all of the features and benefits from an NDI production system, right, Mark?
Yeah, correct. Thank you.
And you're going to get 4K high quality streams, switching, NDI integrations, all of that allowing you to get multiple camera angles, a full production, regardless of how many sources your church needs for your live production and streaming. The next application I want to talk a little bit about is remote production. This is something we're seeing a lot more of in House of Worship. So we talked about a single camera setup. We talked about a multi-camera setup. Now we're talking about a multi-location setup. One of the big advantages we see is it allows you to take advantage of even volunteer and technical resources that may not always be available every Sunday afternoon as you're doing your Sunday service. You can set up a remote production system where that person can help create the production from wherever they are in the world. There are a lot of advantages to remote production. Mark, can you walk us through the Kiloview workflow that we're showing off here?
Yes, this solution showing here is actually a combination of our encoder and decoder E3 and the D350, which both has 3G SDI and HDMI dual interface connection, and all of them work in dual channel mode simultaneously and support up to 4K resolution and HEVC codec. I think they can work in local networker and or be placed in different networks over long distance, which actually the remote production you mentioned. And so typically NDI HX is for the local production, and they also can connect each other with SRT or RTM stream. So the SRT is typically for remote production.
Absolutely. And we're showing off some of those here. Let me walk you over to the table again. You'll see that we have the E3 set up right here and the D350. And those are going to be some of your cornerstone products for this remote production solution with the Kiloview SRT solutions. And that can also support the KiloLink Server Pro. Mark, can you tell us a little bit about that and how that fits into the workflow here?
Yeah. So talk about the SRT-based remote production workflow. Like E3 can do live streaming up to 8 address at the same time. So if you connect with 2 different signals, so that's 4 for each. and both with the loop out functions for monitoring the signal before sent to encoding. And for D350, we have a refactored, totally new firmware just recently. So there are new web UI interface, and the operation logical is very, very clear. So different from the old ones. And now D350 supports up to 12-channel decoding simultaneously, which based on the H.264N5 codec. It also has the dual-channel output. So the dual-channel output can be used for separate decoding. Just for example, two different signals can be sent to a projector and a LED wall in a main church at the same time. So just a one D350 can do this. So another thing is, because we have built in a mode view function in D350, and it can be used to mix the display and show more information on one screen. So.
Absolutely, and that can all be combined together in the remote production world with the Killer Link Server Pro, right?
Yeah. The Killer Link Server Pro is a management platform we provide for free. So and for the users, you can decide where to deploy it. You can deploy it on cloud or maybe on Prime. So it can use as a bonding server to it can be used as a bonding server to receive bonding data from P3 and P3 Mini. We have mentioned earlier, and generate multiple streaming feeds sent to different platforms. And Killer Link Server Pro can also use to register your E3 and the D350 and manage them together. User can manage multiple remote E3 in a central location through a single web page. So, which means you can use this to upgrade your firmware. You can choose all your gears and upgrade the firmware at the same time.
Excellent, and that's one of the key benefits that we talked about with the Kiloview workflow, is that centralization that we showed off in the center of the slide in the beginning. Kiloview gives you that in the remote production space, as well as a lot of great benefits that fit into the House of Worship application, right?
Yes.
Including that cost-effective solution, multi-venues. You can really roll that out across your entire campus of churches, and you can get that multi-site capability all with these Kiloview solutions. So, Mark, I think we answered the question as we went along, but let's remind all of our viewers why Kiloview is such a good choice in the House of Worship marketplace.
So about why Kiloview, I think our products is focusing on the AV over IP infrastructure. So we actually our products deliver more professional video qualities, and while being easy to use, very cost efficiency, and also flexible for the future extensions. And flexible for the future expansion. So which means if you just use one single camera connection for now, but you can actually expand your whole system to scale it up in the future.
Absolutely, and I'll also say flexibility as far as connections. Kiloview has the solutions available for your HDMI workflows, SDI workflows, NDI, NDI-HX, SRT, Dante, you name it, there's a Kiloview solution across the board, and that's why it's such a popular choice with a lot of the system integrators that we work with. So when you're talking with your system integrator and you're showing off a camera maybe that you have already on location, a cinema camera that you want to add to your productions, to your house of worship, there is going to be a Kiloview solution that allows you to get that included into your production, whether on-prem or remote, and allow you to stream and do anywhere. If you have any questions about any of these products, any of the different workflows we talked about today, you can reach out to us here at WorshipStreamTV. We can connect you with one of our system integrators throughout the country and help make sure we get those right products set up for you. You can also contact Kiloview directly right on their website at kiloview.com, and of course, follow them all across social media. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. Are you going to be joining the Kiloview team at the NAB show?
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. I will see you in April at NAB in Vegas. If you are going to be at the NAB show in Vegas, or if you're at the NRB show this week, check out the Kiloview product. We will have them on display, and definitely worth something to look for your house of worship streaming. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jen. Nice to
Have a
meet you.
great day. Bye now.
Yeah, have a great day.
Thank you to Mark for joining us and explaining all about their encoders and decoders that are available on the market, as well as their distribution devices for NDI and their recording devices for NDI. I hope that you learned some stuff about a lot of the great products that are coming out on the market. And tomorrow we're going to start getting into some of those workflows, explaining some resources that are available to you for some training. We're going to be joined by Paul Richards from PTZ Optics to give a demo on Hive Studio, which is their new PTZ control that you can use from anywhere in the world. We're also going to be joined by Peyton Thomas from Panasonic, and he's going to give us a demo into the Panasonic K-Rose system and its very unique and customizable output canvases. And then we're also going to have Jeremy Morris back from Vizrt to talk about their latest production system and software system, the TriCaster Mini S and the TriCaster Vision. And then on Thursday, we have some more great shows coming as well with Absen and Canon. And then also we're going to be doing a live Q&A. So there is still more to come with WorshipStream. And just one last reminder, if you are watching on Facebook and YouTube, you can still register at WorshipStream.tv and enter for your chance to win some of the prizes that we have listed. That's all we have for today, and we will see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for joining us.